Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Retro Computing Ranch. You know, I'm feeling a little under the weather this week. Got a kind of an upper respiratory thing going, and I was putting together this week's video where I'm working on a Kaypro, and I realized that I didn't really actually talk about the Kaypro, who the company was, what the machine is. So let's dive into that real quick first, and then we'll move on to the actual work for the week. So Kaypro, they were an American-based manufacturer of personal computers in the 1980s. They originally started as a company called Nonlinear Systems, which made test equipment. They started using microprocessors. They decided to start making personal computers, mainly luggables, to compete with the Osborne 1 luggable personal computer. We'll get a picture of it here in a few moments when we move down. So the big thing with Kaypro is when you bought the computer, it came with a ton of application software, pretty much everything you would need. It all ran under CPM, which they had a license for from Digital Research. And they had Zilog Z80 CPU, 64K of RAM, and two 5.25-inch drives. Now, depending on what model you ended up with during the period of time they were making them, that determined what density of drive that you got. They originally sold for around $1,600 a piece, and that was a lot cheaper than an IBM PC, like an XT of the time, although they started making their computers a little bit earlier on than the PC really became popular. That's actually one of the reasons that they're no longer in business. They couldn't adjust fast enough when the PC came around, and they just lost too much market share, weren't making enough sales anymore. So let's scroll down here and see if we can find some info on the actual models. So as you can see over here on the right hand side, that's what the computers look like. It's a really heavy metal shell. It has a keyboard that you can pull two latches. The keyboard can come down. It's attached via basically a phone handset cord, like a coiled one. There's a main board inside. There's a power supply for the CRT. There's a power supply that drives the logic board. There's a couple of disk drives in there. So let's bring that up so you can see a little bit better. Pretty much all green screen machines. I've seen a few that have a different color phosphor, but I think that those were retrofitted after the fact. Here's what the logic board looks like. I think that this is going to be maybe one of the universal logic boards, although I can see that it does not have the modem in the top right corner, but it does have the 50-pin pen header, which is what they used for hard drives. This one's not populated. Now, it's not any of the standard types. It's an oddball type of drive, and so it's not common to see. That's what it looked like from front on. So on the Kaypro 2, it had a 2.5 megahertz Z80, 64K of RAM, two single-sided, 191 kilobyte, 5.25-inch drives, and an 80-column green monochrome screen. The Kaypro 4 83 and the Kaypro 4 84, one uses Roman numerals, one uses an actual numeral, an Arabic numeral. And they're different machines. So that's why you see them commonly referred to as the Kaypro 483 and the Kaypro 484. The one that I actually have 3 or 4 of these Kaypros. The one I have that I've done the most work on and that we're going to be looking at later on in the video is the Kaypro 484. It has the universal logic board. Everything is fully populated on it. It has the serial port, the parallel port, the modem port, the drive adapter header, the chips. Everything is populated. So out of the like 3 or 4 that I ended up with, that's the one I chose to focus on. Now what I have done is I put a Gotek in there, which is a floppy disk emulator. You're probably familiar with them, to replace one of the 5.25 drives, so that I can just have a USB drive with all my software images on it, and I can just cycle through them. So software-wise, there was a lot of software available. They had CPM 2.2. They had an Office application suite from Perfect Software, Perfect Writer, Perfect Calc, Perfect Filer, Perfect Speller, an SBasic compiler. There was just a ton of software available for the machine, DBase 2, and a lot of it was included with the machine when you purchased it. So really cool stuff. Not a lot of games, not a lot of aftermarket stuff other than some ROMs that you could replace to get the machine to operate faster or to support larger disks or something along those lines. So it wasn't really popular in the hacker modder community, but it was very popular in the community where people would want normal business applications, a machine that they didn't have to mess with the internals, they could just set it and go. So like accounting offices, regular offices, authors really liked it because it was an easy experience to be able to just sit and type into the machine. In fact, Arthur C. Clarke had a bunch of these machines, and that's what he wrote a lot of his books on. His sci-fi novels was on a Kaypro machine. So that's kind of a basic introduction to what Kaypro is, or what Kaypro, the company, was, what machines they offered. So we can go ahead now and move on to actually working on the machine. So we'll cut over to that and hang out and watch what we're doing. This is going to be a series, so we're going to have some other Kaypro videos as time permits, mixed in with other videos on the channel. I like to keep a variety of stuff going so that, well, one, so that there's a variety of things to attract people in, but also so that I don't get too stuck on one thing and kind of off into the weeds. So it's nice to have some variety, different things to work on, so projects will get cycled in and out as time and interest permits. All right, let's go ahead and move over. Today we're going to be working on a Kaypro 4 1984, otherwise shortened as a Kaypro 484. Now, there is a Kaypro 483 model, which was a different hardware design, and that's why there's the distinction in the community. So what we're going to do is we're going to boot this machine up, and I'll show you the issue that we're having. Now, that issue is due to the fact that I've put a Gotek in this computer in the A drive position. It still has a regular floppy drive in the B position, and the machine has an aftermarket ROM. Now, I don't have a virtual copy of the boot disk for that aftermarket ROM, and so the machine will not boot up. Let me show you. So we're going to wait for the CRT to warm up, and you'll see that we get the Advent boot logo for the TurboROM version 3, and it does not go any further. What I need to do is get this machine to where it can boot up from the Gotek, so I can start making copies of floppies from the B drive to the virtual A drive, and then that way I will have a boot disk for this TurboROM. So what we're going to do is I have my TL866, I have a 2732 ROM, I have a UV EEPROM eraser. We're going to make use of all of that to get the correct stock ROM into this machine so that we can boot off of the standard boot disk, the CPM 2.2 G, I believe, that's meant for this machine. So let's get everything set up, and I'll show you how we go about it. Okay, so we're all set up, and like I said, what I have here is my TL866 and an UV EEPROM eraser. This is actually a phone sanitizer that I got at a local drugstore, CVS, Walgreens, I don't remember which. It has a timer on top for 5, 15, and 30 minutes. So what I'm going to do, I have a spacer, which is actually a Tandy 3.5-inch disc box. I'm going to put it in there. And then I'm going to take my 2732 ROM. This is a TI, a TMS 2732A. I'm going to place it in the enclosure. I'm going to connect power to the enclosure. And the reason we're using a spacer is to get the EEPROM as close as possible to the germicidal tube that's in the top of the unit. That will allow us to have the shortest amount of erase time. So I'm going to put the lid on, This phone sanitizer is completely enclosed. You will not have any exposure to UVC radiation. I'm going to set it for 15 minutes, and we will return when that timer is up, and we will check to make sure that the device is empty. All right, so our 15-minute timer on the EEPROM eraser has finished up. We're going to go ahead. I've already got the software open, and you just click on the device name. You can type in the search. I put TMS 2732, and I selected TI, and I can see the device here, TMS 2732A. I hit select, and then we put the device into the programmer. Now, it will show you under information which way the key goes and to which direction it needs to go. So we're going to make sure we do that. So I'm putting the chip into the programmer, and then I'm going to close the ZIF lever that will lock everything together. So now it's all locked together. Let's do a read from the device first of all. Okay, we have successfully read the device, and let's take a look. It looks like everything is FF. Let's go ahead and do a blank check with the FF button just to make sure. And yes, it is empty. So what we can do at this point is we can open, and we're going to go find our 81.292 file, which is the stock ROM for this model computer. It's buried down in here just a little bit. There we go. And these defaults are fine. And as you can see, if we scroll up, we can see here, it's Kaypro 4. Please place your diskette into drive A. So that is the boot prompt that we should get if everything is successful before it jumps to booting from the floppy disk. So I'm going to go ahead and tell it to program the chip with the P button. Oh, one other thing before we go on. Check your data sheets and make sure of your VPP voltage, which is your programming voltage. For this device, it's 21 volts. So we're going to tell it to program. It will program and verify. Now, on a smaller device, like a 2732, 2764, it's not going to take long to program and verify. On a larger device, it will take significantly longer. So it looks like we programmed in 9200 milliseconds, and we verified in 141 milliseconds. That's great. Let's go ahead, just to make sure, we're going to clear all buffers, and then we're going to read the device in. And we can see here that it does look like everything is correct. So let me go ahead and swap the ROMs in the Kaypro, and we'll boot the Kaypro up, and we'll see if it is working. Okay, we're back. Everything's all set up. I've got the ROM swapped, and I have the flash drive in the Gotek with the correct disk image selected. So we're going to see if we can get this thing to boot. Let me go ahead and power the machine on here. Hopefully it'll just come right up, no problem. Oh, the machine is already booted. Let's do a reset so if we can see if we can see the insert disk prompt. Yep, there it is. Cool. All right, so I should be able to issue a DIR. Yep, and we have a list of our files on the disk. Let's see here. Let's do a stat. Yep. Okay. And D. Yeah, looks like everything is working. We're booting off of CPM 2.2G. So now I will be able to start backing up my disk images. Now, just in case there's some sort of issue and I'm not able to make this work, I've also ordered a grease weasel. It is on the way, or at least it should be on the way shortly. And worst case, I can always back up my disk images using that as well. Might end up doing both just to be sure. So that's going to wrap that up for today. That was actually pretty easy. Really easy on the part of having both the TL866 and this Total Defense UV phone sanitizer, which has an actual germicidal bulb in the top of it. If you're going to go look for something like this, I would make sure it has a germicidal bulb and not just UV LEDs. I don't know if those are going to supply the right frequency that you need to make this work. One thing that I will add is check the frequency that it operates at. So the older one that I have that's a toothbrush sanitizer, that one operates at 254-ish nanometers, and it doesn't make very much ozone. So exposing air to UV in the certain frequency ranges will generate a lot of ozone. This one operates at 185 nanometers, and it makes a lot of ozone. So when you open it, you don't want to have your face right over it because you'll get a real strong whiff of ozone. Now, ozone does have its benefits, like for sanitizing things and removing odors, but it can also, in high doses, be considered kind of an environmental issue. So just make sure you're careful with that. And then also, if you don't go for something like this that's fully enclosed, make sure you protect your UV light source so that you're not being exposed to that UVC. It is dangerous to your skin and your eyes and various other things, and you just want to make sure you're safe at all times. And I think, let's see, one other thing. I picked this up at an auto parts store. It was a 3-pack of these. They're mini pry bars. It's very, very handy for getting ICs out of sockets. So that's something you can take a look at. Now, it is conductive, but you're going to have the machine off and unplugged anyway when you do that. So that pretty much covers it. Have a great day. Thanks for watching. If you found this helpful, make sure to like, share, and subscribe, and we'll catch you next week.